September 11, 2001. It is a date seared into the memory of a generation. On that day, the United States faced the deadliest terrorist attack in its history. 19 men, working for a terrorist group called Al-Qaeda, hijacked 4 commercial airplanes. They turned these planes into guided missiles aimed at iconic American landmarks: World Trade Center, Pentagon. A 4th plane was believed to be headed for Washington, D.C., the White House or the U.S. Capitol. The world watched in horror as towers of steel and glass crumbled, and a symbol of military might burned, claiming thousands of innocent lives. That day drew a sharp line in history: the world before 9/11 and the world after. The significance of 9/11 extends far beyond the immediate devastation. The targets were carefully chosen symbols of America's power and ideals: World Trade Center, economic power; Pentagon, military strength. The likely aim in Washington, the political heart of American democracy. This was a declaration of war, broadcast live around the globe. The attacks triggered vulnerability and unity, patriotism and grief, fear and anger. Emotions that would shape policy and people for years. The blue of that Tuesday morning became a backdrop for unimaginable tragedy and indelible images. Understanding 9/11 is key to the 21st century, from wars abroad to lasting security changes at home, from coordinated horror to the painstaking hunt for the man who ordered it all, Osama bin Laden. The day began like any other Tuesday, September 11, 2001, crisp and clear on the East Coast. Millions started work, kids settled into class, and the skies filled with routine flights. At 7:59 a.m., American Airlines Flight 11, a Boeing 767 with 92 aboard, departed Boston for Los Angeles. Shortly after takeoff, 5 hijackers took control. By 8:14 a.m., controllers sensed something was terribly wrong. Flight 11 stopped responding, its transponder switched off. The jet turned south toward New York. At 8:46 a.m., Flight 11 slammed into the North Tower between the 93rd and 99th floors, killing everyone on board and many inside. First responders rushed into chaos, mounting desperate rescues as the world tried to process what had happened. United 175, a Boeing 767 with 65 aboard, was hijacked, veering dangerously toward the skyline. At 9:03 a.m., it plowed into the South Tower between the 77th and 85th floors. All doubt vanished. This was no accident. It was a deliberate attack. The second impact, aired live from every angle, confirmed the nation's worst fears. Inside the South Tower, severed stairwells and burning jet fuel trapped hundreds above the impact. American Airlines Flight 77, a Boeing 757 with 64 aboard, took off from Dulles at 8:20 a.m. Hijackers turned off the transponder. The jet vanished from civilian radar. At 9:37 a.m., Flight 77 crashed into the Pentagon, igniting an inferno and collapsing a section, killing all on board and 125 inside. The FAA ordered all civilian aircraft to land immediately. The first time in U.S. history. The skies fell silent. After 56 minutes of fire, the South Tower collapsed in a terrifying cascade of steel, concrete, and dust. At 10:28 a.m., after 102 minutes, the North Tower followed. The New York skyline was irrevocably altered. A toxic cloud smothered lower Manhattan as a day of horror reached its terrible climax. But one more hijacked plane still flew. United Flight 93, a Boeing 757, left Newark at 8:42 a.m., bound for San Francisco with 44 aboard, including 4 hijackers. A long delay on the ground would change everything. When hijackers seized control at 9:28 a.m., passengers already knew what had happened in New York and at the Pentagon. Evidence later suggested a Washington target, the Capitol or the White House. They took a vote, resolved to fight back: Todd Beamer, Mark Bingham, Tom Burnett, Jeremy Glick, and others. On an open line, Beamer said, "Are you guys ready? Let's roll." Screams, crashes, and shouts filled the cockpit voice recorder as passengers stormed the aisle. The hijacker at the controls rolled the jet to throw them off, then dove in a desperate final move. At 10:03 a.m., Flight 93 crashed into an empty field in Pennsylvania at over 560 miles per hour. They saved countless lives on the ground, the first heroes of a new war. The U.S. quickly identified Al-Qaeda, led by Osama bin Laden, as responsible. Born in 1957 in Saudi Arabia, he was heir to vast wealth and influence, yet drawn to radical ideology. In 1979, he joined the Afghan Jihad against the Soviets, funding, recruiting, and training Arab fighters, an experience that transformed him. He founded Al-Qaeda, the base, to organize this transnational network. Outraged by U.S. troops in Islam's holiest land, he condemned the Saudi monarchy and America. Stripped of citizenship, he relocated to Sudan, then returned to Taliban-ruled Afghanistan to build a global terror network. He issued fatwas declaring war on the U.S., citing troops in Saudi Arabia, support for Israel, and sanctions on Iraq. He masterminded bold attacks culminating in the 9/11's plot. By striking economic, military, and political symbols, he aimed to shatter invincibility and rally recruits. That night, President George W. Bush vowed to find those responsible, declaring, "We will make no distinction between the terrorists and those who harbor them." The Bush Doctrine signaled pursuit of terrorists and regimes that sheltered them. The Taliban, harboring bin Laden, refused to hand him over. Aerial bombardment hit air defenses, command centers, and al-Qaeda camps. U.S. air power paired with local militias proved devastating. By mid-November, the Taliban regime crumbled and fled. Yet bin Laden and senior leaders slipped toward the rugged borderlands. The campaign toppled the Taliban. The long hunt for bin Laden had only begun. Bin Laden sought to lure America into a long war, a bleed-until-bankruptcy plan. Betting cost and time would erode resolve. In December 2001 at Tora Bora, fierce battles raged, but bin Laden escaped into Pakistan's tribal areas. For years he remained a ghost as intelligence pursued every lead. Old-school analysis traced a trusted courier, the thread that could lead to bin Laden. In 2010, a fortified Abbottabad compound drew focus. Months of surveillance suggested the target himself. President Barack Obama chose a surgical raid, Operation Neptune's Spear. A helicopter failed inside the compound, but the SEALs pressed on, clearing floor by floor. On the third floor, they found Osama bin Laden and killed him. In under 40 minutes, they gathered intelligence, destroyed the downed aircraft, and exfiltrated with the body. The president announced the operation. Americans celebrated. Bin Laden was